Yeah. Well, that was, because it was interesting with, I don't know, man. Like Megan rescued a dog, and Claire now has rescued a dog, and we're seeing the dogs. Ivy, the new dog, is following a path of just like every day you see it see her get more comfortable, kind of following the same path that Ollie took. But, I got in the morning of January 3rd, and you two picked me up at the airport. Man, that first hug was we were back together, man. Um, and it was like we'd never been apart. Um, I just can't. It was everything. And I think it's still interesting. Where I live now, where we live, he picked me up at the airport. We went to Kirby Lane, which is right across the street from Jenna's, right up the street from my place. But Megan and I had breakfast there a couple weeks ago, and I still remember we're sitting there waiting for a table, sitting on that bench, and that's when you told me that Amy hit you. And I've talked about I never really hated her for all the stuff she did. Had a little hate in me that day. It, I mean, I always, when Claire was a baby and started seeing her personality come out and see her amazing brain, my thought was always, I hope we don't break her. And I think I'm amazed going through all that, Claire, that you never broke. The strength to be in it, the strength to leave it, because then the battle started. Amy didn't go down quietly. At this point, she acts as her own attorney. And, Whitney, who we'll have on, we talked about that. Whitney, was my attorney from day one. It's funny when you first start meeting with a divorce attorney, she lays out the divorce process and says, we can probably do this thing for $2,500. Add 2 zeros to that with Amy Sims. But, we got restraining orders. No, we had to, and this is Claire's and probably one of the richest high schools in Texas. And that shouldn't matter. That shouldn't matter. But we're having to go talk to the principal, the assistant principal, all the different layers, and, tell them about if she comes by, there's a restraining order. She's not allowed to be there, but still we would, dropping Claire off at school. We're always looking over our shoulder. These guys will tell you that they cannot and probably never will be able to see a white BMW X5 without gut clench. And, the court system. So this is, January of 2021, as we've talked about. It all ended November of 2021. And that was a long 11 months. I was trying to find your passport, and I end up going through all the old divorce papers. But, as late as late October, we're still filing motions back and forth.
We had court like the next day.
Yeah.
We had to for the temporary custody, didn't we?
Yeah. To get an emergency reversal of custody. And I think we'll probably do something at some point, maybe with Whitney, about just We have a long history of family court in one place, and that's Tarrant County, Fort Worth, Texas. So that's the only place I can speak to, but I will tell you there that the good old boy judges believe kids ought to be with their moms. And we begged from the beginning to get a psychological test, to no avail. Go ahead, Claire. What were you going to say?
Also, are only okay with kids speaking if they want to say they want to be with you. I had to talk early on to shut down visitation, and I was coerced and also told that children aren't supposed to do this because they can be coerced. But then when I was 16 and said, nope, bad choice, go back, didn't matter.
Yeah. So we, I forget all the stages, but I think if this is to, talk about kind of, again, the heroics of Claire, first of all, it was Megan and I on Zoom court with Amy Sims on Zoom court. So we've all been on Zoom at this point. So imagine a bunch of heads. There's the judge, there's my lawyer, there's me, there's Megan. Amy represents, I think she did have a lawyer at one point who...
Bitch. If you're watching this, I hate you.
She got a lawyer straight out of college that she could manipulate, and she ended up firing her. The lawyer fired Amy after maybe 2 weeks.
If you're a lawyer, listen up. Do never in a court say, if your mom was really abusing you, why didn't you just call the cops?
It's not about the cops.
Another thing about Zoom court is I've been counseled by Amy Sims how to talk to the court people one-on-one for years. Yeah. And so when it became Zoom court time, I knew how to answer the questions really well. Megan did not have that training and would often get asked to stop talking.
And that's why I'm a fitness coach now. I like to hear myself talk.
Yeah. But we're just to clarify what we're talking about. This lawyer was victim blaming Claire. It was shocking. We're on it and we're shocked.
Victim blaming Megan. It was not. It was all against Megan, and it was appalling for anyone.
Yeah. I get fighting for your client, but hopefully that girl's, and I will say girl, I hope she's got some more reps under her belt and has a different tactic for that. But finally the judge, and it's Claire saying, the judge telling the story she just told. She's drunk starting at 7:00 every morning. She's hit me probably 7 times. And Amy's response is, Your Honor, that's not true. I don't start drinking until 3:00. And I only hit her once, but and even the judge was like, Mrs. Sims, those are not much better. That's, you're, both of those are still really bad. So the judge started to get it a little bit, but tried to force visitation. And, Amy went to jail because she kept Claire from my time with her. And all Amy ever wanted to do since then was get me in jail. Every filing that she made, the divorce process is weird. You say at the end, I pray that you put this person in jail for a period of 9 months or whatever the legal jargon is. But the judge decides Claire should have not just visitation, but back in Amy's house. And I tell Claire, I have to at least put you in Amy's driveway. And we can say it now because what are they going to do? I said, but no one can make you get out of the car. No one's going to make you go in the house. That's up to you. And this is another, just one that breaks me. I realized then what a house of, I don't want to say horror, but Claire, like, can't catch her breath crying, like, baby Claire was the most heartbreaking, top 5 and all this, the most heartbreaking thing when we pulled up to that driveway about how it affected Claire. And so what does Amy do when Claire won't come in the house is call the police. And these are the same police who, when Claire left a year ago, brought her back like a fucking runaway dog.
What if that was the exact same police officer? And he was the one that told me to call him again. He was the one who was trying to convince me to get into the house right down there. And he told me that I could call him directly. And I think I said something about a year ago.
Yeah. 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 And luckily they brought a woman who it seemed like they had someone on the force that was like her job to deal with. So she was at least, a youngish woman who felt like the most rational out of everyone in the situation. But they're talking to Amy, they're talking to me, they're talking to you through the car window, and like, what what can it hurt? Just go in, spend some time with her. And finally the cop pulls me aside and said, and this is an hour, we're there for an hour. And he says, you guys are free to go. We're not going to do anything more here. We understand what's going on. And we drove away, and it was, it was just another worst thing ever to do to Claire. Does the court give up on visitation? No, they don't. So now courts have this thing, and we're still, we never moved jurisdiction. We're all in Austin now, but we're still operating out of Tarrant County. And so we all drive up the road for these court appearances when we have to, when it's not on Zoom. But they have, court sessions at the courthouse Saturday morning visitations. And it's
fun.
It's a bunch of 3-year-old kids and Claire. And
it's also like parents who have been to jail and like are recovering, seeing their toddlers that they've never met. And then me with my abusive mother that I left.
Yeah. And I think the good thing is that, just like in family court where everyone, the bailiff, the woman who schedules court and stuff like that, by 2 years in, they knew Amy and they were almost rooting for us, it felt like. Or we'd be like having hallway conversations and kind of everyone's looking, is she gone yet? So the first time, the one thing I'll say was the people who run that visitation were the most amazing people. I truly believe they're there for the kids because they really looked out for Claire. But like I had to drop Claire off at this courthouse, and it was up in Fort Worth, so I was going to go for a run. And I had just got to the place where I was going to go run from, and I get a call that said, you need to come back. And so, Claire, you want to talk about that first attempt at visitation?
So first time, I don't remember as much.
Blacked out a little bit.
Yeah, I blacked out. Eventually said, need to go to the bathroom. Mediator took me to the bathroom. I don't remember much, but I remember having like no control over my body. Like I was trying to text you and I couldn't even like get words in. And I think she could sense it. She's our court-appointed mediator. I'm sure she has some training. And she was like, "You don't have to go back in there." Like I didn't have to say anything. She was like, "I mean, you have to like say the words that you don't want to, but you don't have to." And I was like, "I can't." And she was like, "Okay." So that time we got to leave, and it was kind of okay until we got back to Austin.
And just it's another, the drive from Fort Worth to Austin's a couple hours. And it's just,
Yeah.
Claire, we're an hour down the road and Claire's still, just that poor little Claire, post sob. I was so mad at everyone involved in the system. And so when we got back to Austin, Claire, what happened?
So at this point, I'm a homework and school restraining order, I think.
Yeah.
Or I might not have had it. There was a period when they gave back visitation and I got my restraining orders taken away, but she did something to get it back. I don't know if it was this instance or if she drove by my work. I can't remember which one. But I think it might have been this instance was finally the court was like, "Okay, we get why you need a restraining order." I thought she had no idea where we lived, what car I had, yada, yada, yada. We are pulling up and I think we ended up picking Megan up at some point, and I think I was already like, "Oh fuck!" And I think Megan said like, "What's that lady doing in your car?" And in that moment, all of us were like, "Oh my god!" I don't remember how we approached her, but I remember just seeing her into my car and then her being gone.
So now we know that Amy knows.
There's another time too.
Well, yeah, later you were going to work and said Mom was in the parking lot, and I confronted her that time, and that helped.
Yeah.
Another, it's violating the restraining order, but that time I've still got the video that I torture myself with on occasion, but she's just drunk. I can't even roll down the window in her car.
And the second time I drove past her and saw her, the like drop on her face told me she's done this before and messed up her timing last time.
Yeah. And then so all this happens, we have to go back to Fort Worth for another visitation. And this time it lasted longer. And I understand you had words.
Yeah. So this time I started off because the last girl let me go. I didn't think that she had realized how unstable I was. And the new girl was like, you can't just shut up and sorry. So I was trying to be like, I'm done. And she was like, you can't do that. And I'm like, I did it last week. Like, what do you mean? But this time, so I was just like, whatever. And I decided this time I didn't care. Like, I didn't care anymore. Nothing she said was real. And so I didn't care at all. And she also, what did she have printed out? She had printed out my grades from the most recent progress report, pictures of me at my summer camp. She had brought in Uno cards and then like a few other printouts, just like trying anything. And so she starts like trying to like ask me questions and stuff, and I'm like, I don't care. Then she drops the news that she started a lawsuit with the CDC because the COVID vaccine messed up her periods. I think that's called menopause. So sorry. So in that moment, I think I was just like so shut down. And then she brought up the COVID thing, and I was like, we're just gonna have fun. So I'm gonna sit here. This is gonna be fun for me. So I just kind of like I just said everything that I thought. She started like dealing out Uno cards, and I like pushed it back, and she like did it again, and I was like, if you put that in front of me one more time, it will get ripped up. And she didn't put it back out in front of me. I was gonna rip the Uno card to prove my point. But yeah, so that was her first attempt at conversation, and I don't even know. She wasn't even trying to like do anything real. Like her next attempt at conversation was like, "Look at this picture of you at camp." And it was like me being like, and she's like, "What are you singing in this photo?" I'm like, 2 weeks ago, I didn't have my phone. Also, in what world is that like a conversation? And then she eventually tried to put like my grades too, and I think I ended up keeping some of the papers and putting them down on the floor next to me, and just being like, "We're not doing that." And so it got to the point where she was pushing, and I just started like I think I just started saying, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." And then the mediator realized that she was not equipped for this situation. She was equipped for 3-year-olds. So they went and got the front office ladies. And she played sole mediator. Like she essentially started a therapy session with the two of us. And she tried really hard. Like she was doing so good. She honestly did. From her, we found out later that she has some similar instances with her family. From her point of view, from my point of view in the moment, it felt very Team Amy. They have to do that when it comes to a borderline type person. So I was kind of like getting more and more angry. But then about like 5 minutes into this like mediation situation, the lady realized we're not getting anywhere. Like this lady will not admit to anything. And so I think I technically got, but not super early. But
She did. She finally said it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so it was just trying so hard to make fake conversation when there's a police officer like right there.
Yeah.
And we're in a cafeteria in a courtroom.
Yeah. And it's interesting. The woman who came in, the better mediator, ultimately she wrote an amazing letter for us to to get the judge to say this isn't helpful. We don't, so we got out of, that was the last we had to do. And I can't remember what time of year it was. I should have looked up when that was.
It would have been 2 weeks after camp.
So what's that, August?
Summer. August, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so we're only 2 months away from the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, it was just still continue wrangling, still finding her in our apartment parking lot.
Email inbox.
Yeah, lots of messaging. And we're not going to go into the end discussion. We'll build up strength for that at some point. Megan, thoughts on that period of time?
I mean, it was crazy.
The snowstorm.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like that period of time, as crazy it was like reliving childhood again, but so much more fun. Like we lived together. Like I think I just turned 21, living with Dad and Claire, and then my soul dog Oliver. And it was just the best time, honestly.
Yeah, we we were in some Airbnb for the big week-long freeze storm of Austin, and we didn't have power, we didn't have heat. But I remember that as one of the best weeks of my life because it was the three of us sitting in the car to warm up or walking down to Silker and just being together. You guys did your bikini photo shoot in the snow. That was
That's what Kendall Jenner did.
You gotta
okay.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I remember it's bad, but when we were, when Amy was alive and we were all together, I don't know if this makes me sound like horrible, but I wished for bad things to happen to Amy. I wished for a life with the three of us. And I remember and I know divorcing wasn't, I remember we were sitting at Lucy's Fried Chicken, three of us and Ollie. And I said, I always just dreamed of us having this life. And it was, since then, it's been, one big traumatic thing happened that we'll work through. But we wouldn't, we've said it before, we wouldn't have this life if Amy were still around. We would never feel safe. We would never feel, she'd be hounding Jenna. It would just, it's,
I still am scared of box numbers.
Box numbers?
Block numbers.
Oh, block numbers.
No caller ID. Still.
It's interesting because I used to be too, but I'm not so much now. So hopefully that that gets better. I'm just so proud of you. I miss you guys so much when we were apart. I know, I've talked about that, but I'm just so thankful for our life. And it's not like you guys are doing okay. You're doing amazing. Almost, definitely in spite of it. So thanks for coming on Over the Borderline. Thanks for telling your story. Didn't know if you'd have it in you. Yeah. Let's hang out for the telling of this.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not easy. If you go back and listen to it, it's even harder.
I don't. I literally haven't listened to it. I edited it and Dad was like, you blocked out this one part. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I don't listen to it. I just edit it.
I don't understand how editor doesn't listen.
You look at the waves, see what waves are higher or shorter.
All right. Calm down, editor. So, yeah. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, Claire's story.
Bye, guys.